This is Sanket. I'm one of the co-founders at BitScale. BitScale is an AI-powered GTM orchestration platform. Uh, you can compare us with platforms like Clay or Apollo or Zoom Info. So yeah, this is a quick introduction about me. Like we started this company around 2 years back. I have had I have had worked in finance before that. I've worked as a product manager before that. But yeah, ended up building BitScale, and it's going really, really well. And very excited to talk to you, Brandon.
Yeah, and obviously over the past 2 years, we've seen a big growth in this go-to-market outbound tools. How'd you figure out there was a market need for this? Was it from your own pain points? Was it from talking to clients? You said, hey, we're trying to use
Mhm.
these tools, they're too complex. How'd you realize there was a real problem to solve initially?
Got it. So it's a very interesting journey how we actually ended up in GTM space. To be honest, Brandon, like I
Mhm,
said, right? Like I'm an engineer by like my education. After that, I was a
mhm,
quant researcher in finance, and then I was a product manager. So there is
mhm,
nothing related to sales in my resume, right? So like I have always been, along with my co-founders, we are always been interested in AI and the use cases of AI. So when we started building companies 3 years back, right? Like we were building
mhm,
lots of stuff around something around analytics, anything which has AI in it. Like we would want to explore that, right?
mhm,
So how we started this was like we just wanted to build a spreadsheet interface where like people can run chat gpt prompts in bulk. That was the
mhm,
core idea of BitScale, and we just launched it as a hobby project on Twitter, right?
mhm,
And when we sort of did that on Twitter, like it got some sort of virality, and like people started to reach out to us and said like, can you give us the access to this platform? I will build SEO blogs out of this, right? Some product
mhm,
managers came to me and they will say, we want to generate summaries out of this, right? Like in bulk, because this is spreadsheet, and just like formulas, you can sort of do AI prompts, right? So that's
mhm.
how we started in this space. And during one of these demo calls, I think 2 years back, one of the customers sort of enlightened me about this space, that they are using a similar tool in this GTM space who is solving like similar problems. And that's how we sort of went doubling down on tools like Clay, and went deep into like how we want to build this as a GTM orchestration platform. We always had these incoming requests coming in from like, can I have emails in the spreadsheet? Can I have the phone numbers in the spreadsheet? Right? Can I have AI research in the spreadsheet? But we could never figure out until the time a real customer came on a demo call, and he said like, can you solve this particular problem for me? Like I am using
Mhm.
it using another doing it using another tool, but you are exactly the same. Why don't you do it for me? And then we came across this GTM space, cold outreach space. And since then, like it's been around 2 years, we are deep into uh, cold outbound and GTM space.
And that's always so interesting, kind of how the founding story comes to be. Because, like you said, it's always a wild story where you start and where you end up.
Yeah.
Within the space, obviously, there's some big players, and we're seeing a lot more
Hmm.
people interested in using AI to really grow out their go to market or sales
Yeah.
team. What do you
Mhm.
find is I don't say not biggest misconception, but some of the big challenges people are still trying
Mhm.
to solve within this space?
Mhm.
Because obviously, I think now it's really focused on mass outreach and a lot of these tool complexity. Where are you seeing a lot of these problems
Mhm.
still occurring overall?
Yeah. So like you said, right? Like there are a lot of uh, sales tech by its nature is very,
Mhm,
very noisy and very loud sort of a market, right? Each of these
mhm,
tools, each of these big competitors, all of these like make very, very big claims around like AI is changing the world like that. And AI, by using AI you can book demos and get meetings and all of that. And you must have seen like there are so many AI SDR companies who have raised like hundreds of millions of dollars just based on this story, right? Like you will send mass emails using AI and you will get a lot of results, right? But you look at their churn rate, right? Like it's very, very high, right? So how I am seeing this market is that there are two sort of buyers in this particular space. One is who still get, like 2 years back everybody was like more towards that the AI will sort of solve my pipeline problem. Right now, we are coming across more educated buyers who are saying, like, yeah, we know that AI SDR is sort of a story only. It doesn't really work. The churn is real high, right? And now they are getting more aware that, yeah, if I need to implement AI, how can I sort of reduce the manual work of my SDRs, which are doing, right? What are the
Mhm.
processes which my people are doing manually, which where I can sort of leverage AI, right? This is where like
Mhm.
more educated buyers, we are getting more and more of these. Like like previously, we have sold BitScale to so many people, like who were just amazed when we showed them the personalization capabilities of BitScale based on AI, right? Like, hey,
Yeah.
saw that you were doing blah blah stuff like that, right? And people were amazed because that was very new, right? But now things are getting real when it comes to AI, right? Like people know that this will not work. If I send 100,000 emails with very generic personalization, things will never work, right? They need to identify the specific triggers. They need to identify which all flows my people are doing, my team is doing, where I can optimize things, right? So I think that buyers are getting more educated in this space. AI has been like a, I think it's 4 year old only, right? Like I know
Mhm.
ML has been there for a long period of time, but particularly on this around this type of intelligence, right? Chat GPT like
Mhm.
intelligence, it's been hardly 4 years. And in the 4 years itself, like I think people are getting very, very educated. Now they know that what type of tools they want, what type of optimizations they want. And this is where like I think we are really, really well positioned because we are sort of solving part of those processes, right? So yeah, this is how I'm thinking about this.
I think we're seeing that more and more. I mean, obviously, you said in the early days of the tools, it's send a million emails, get a million meetings, but
Yeah,
then it's just purely mostly spam and
exactly.
over reliance on just volume rather than
Yeah,
customization.
exactly.
Have you found that, especially now, because AI is so easy and accessible, it can be a little bit lazy to use. People are,
Yeah,
they're just sending generic messages, or
yeah,
they're really trying to really, like you said, you were saying before, saying too many bulk emails without really figuring out the context.
yeah.
Where do you think, as the models can write emails relatively well over these past few years, even I would say,
Mhm,
where do you think the next kind of
mhm,
innovation or big push on these AI go to market tools is going to be? Is it on better signaling? Is it on more customization
mhm,
on wording? Where are you thinking, as
mhm.
Opus 4.8 and 5 come out, and Mythos
Right.
and all these other things come out? Where do you think AI is really going to help the sales function? Or
Yeah,
do you think there's a little bit overhype on removing the sales rep too much from the process?
got it, got it. So I think there are I would say I would answer this in two parts. The first
Mm,
part is, if I talk about coding, for example, like how AI is
mhm,
changing the coding, right? Each model that comes up, 4.7, 4.8,
mhm,
4.9, it will improve the ability to write the code for any SDR, for any coder,
mhm.
right?
Yeah.
This is on the intelligence side of things. But at the same time, I think with the level of models that we have today with ChatGPT
Mhm,
5.5 and Opus 4.7, I don't think
mhm,
like salespeople need more advanced tools, right? In terms of
mhm,
intelligence, it is more than sufficient. It shouldn't be that complicated. The second part of this problem is that this is where like almost all the teams mess up is around the context, right?
mhm,
In sales function, the context is the real value where the existing models that are there are sufficient if you provide them enough context, for example, from your first party data, website visit,
mhm,
second party data, third party data. If you combine all of this, provide that as a package, and then you ask AI, right, like the right questions and the right
mhm,
messaging, if you are able to identify, then I think a lot of things can be done. A lot of good emails, very relevant audience you can build, and very relevant messaging you can reach out with. So I think people are over optimizing on the first thing, that give me better and better models, and I am using like very bad data behind the scenes,
mhm.
and they are doing very less around part two, which is uh like the context is missing, right? And this is where
Mhm.
like I think I am very bullish, and we as a company,
Mhm.
right, we are very bullish on Claude Code, because
Mhm.
Claude Code by its nature of like by its nature itself, right, like it is able to
Mhm.
sort of have all of these connectors, it has all the context, right? And that's why like we are also trying to make ourselves as compatible as possible with Claude Code, because the concept context resides there, the data resides in BitScale, and then the outreach happens in, let's say, a HubSpot or stuff like that, right? So we want to build this integrated sort of a system, and this is where I think like most of the other companies will also move in, right? Like companies
Mhm.
like Zoom Info, Apollo have already sort of released their MCP, or if not, they will
Mhm.
release soon, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like our moat will always remain around the data, because we are very very deep on the waterfalls and data enrichment.
Mhm. I think what you touched on is one of the big parts there is that over reliance on model intelligence rather than just access to better data, especially as you said, first
Exactly.
party data. I think oftentimes when I've advised and worked with go to market teams, they're asking
Yeah.
like, okay, we're going to use all these tools to scrape information. We're going to use all these signals, but have nothing
Yeah.
connected to internal systems. They have no way of tracking click through rate. They have no knowledge of who's visiting their website, or that is data that is proprietary. Only you would know, and is the best
Exactly.
signal. The best purchasing
Exactly.
signal if it is if someone's on your purchasing page, and if without that data, no
Exactly.
matter how good the model is, it that pure data you have on your own systems is obviously much better. So that's I think a true
Exactly.
perspective people overlook because it's a little bit harder to do. There is no
Yeah.
easy answer, and there requires some personal intelligence around setting that up.
Yeah.
As as obviously one thing I always find interesting, more on the sales rep and go to market side, is there's this interesting shift between go to market engineers or salespeople. It went from before you need a very social person, then it became a little bit more on the what I would call RevOps, where it's that like product person, setting up systems, allowing
Yeah.
you to really do mass outreach. And then with the go to market engineer, I'm seeing now the requirements for job postings being software engineers to go to market engineering.
Yeah.
However, my theory is that I think the sales rep will come back because personalized touches will become more important than being able to socialize in
Exactly.
person. Where do you think the sales rep plays a big role now? Because outreach and message optimization to some extent can be done a lot by models. Yet there's these
Yeah.
lost soft skills. Where do you think a sales rep really fits in today's ecosystem? Do they still exist? Is it overhyped in the idea that AI can replace everyone? Or where are you seeing kind of more successful teams you're working with use sales and that sales methodology while also having that engineering context as well?
Exactly. A very, very nice question, Brandon. I think I have seen this play out for some of our other customers who are really, really outperforming the other companies. So firstly, I would like to touch upon the fact that you mentioned that requirement for a GTM engineers are like so many, right? You have to be a software engineer
Mhm.
as well. You have to be like you should know Clay as well, like stuff like that, right? First of all, I think like for a sales tech product, right? It's it is built by design that you do not sort of need so many tools to sort of make things work, right? Like it is
Mhm.
sort of an overhyped role according to me, right?
Mhm.
Sales should not be that complicated in that manner, right? Like it shouldn't be.
Mhm.
It never was. The buying and selling was happening, and it is never going to be in the future, right? It is just like a marketing gimmick, I would say. Like in my
Mhm.
honest terms, a SaaS tool doesn't need to be that complicated. It's as simple
Mhm.
as that, right? And just based on the hype, right, I am seeing so many SDRs changing their title from SDR to GTM engineers, from account
Mhm.
executives to GTM engineers, because they see like better opportunities for them. But I know like these things will come back to the norm very very soon. But the idea that you touched upon, right, like how the overall ecosystem for these SDRs will look like, right? I think the value these SDRs provide is the relationship angle, right?
Mhm.
The humans are going to buy from the humans, right? This is something which I am seeing across, right? Like probably we are not mature enough to hand out our credit cards to agents who are sort of doing the buying on our behalf,
Mhm.
right? But till the time that happens, I think humans will buy from humans, right? Like you will have uh, real people coming on the podcast with you, right? And I
Mhm.
think the sales is moving in the same direction, right? Like, for example, what I think is that the systems need to be created, right? The context layer, the AI should be there, which makes the work of an SDR easier. So sorry, if you have list of, if you are given 1,000 accounts, right, in a particular market segment, the AI should help you identify who are these 10 accounts you should go after. AI should help you bring out all the context, bring out all the problem statements about this company or this individual might be facing out of these 1,000, right? Which are at the verge of, which are who are at the verge of buying your software or your product, right? But at the end of the day, it's the SDR whose job is to, probably reach out to that person in a very personalized manner that can even be like, if gifting is needed, like people do that and it works, right? AI can solve for the emails, but the personal touches, right? The messaging, the calling, right? Those things should happen via SDRs. So yeah, that's how I am looking at things.
I'm seeing it more and more in this relationship building. A classic story I used to always tell is growing up, my dad always said, you have to play golf. All business meetings are done through golf. Learn to play golf.
Yeah,
And then throughout my career, I never was invited for golf. This was the early 2010s, 2020s. It was just not that popular relatively to meetings. Now, all of a sudden, comes in the boom of AI. Everyone's like, hey, I've done too many Zoom calls. Let's meet in person. Let's go golf. Let's go play pickleball. We're actually more on the pickleball now. So I'm seeing this big
yeah,
shift back into these, what I would say, like old school sales techniques, because people are, I'm not sure it says a missing the relationship, but because it's so easy to fabricate it online through AI dialers or mass email, people
yeah,
want to have that face to face relationship to make these deals. I think what's also unique is that one challenge I've seen within sales specifically, if you're trying to purely just use agent talking to agent, is that the context of what you're trying to buy and sell is pretty vague. Like everyone has like, this is what our
exactly.
product does, and there's all these other questions like, well, can you do this? Can you do this? How are
Yeah,
you going to add this feature? And there's this weird like trying to fit these two tools together where the information is asymmetrical typically, and it's very difficult to understand without
yeah,
having some connection. And then I think what we're seeing more and more now, and a
yeah,
lot of
and,
these all SaaS tools, is the fact that when something goes wrong, you want to be able to
yeah,
talk to a human. No matter how AI forward you are, no one wants to hear an
yeah,
AI agent when you're mad. And it's just, I think that's a human nature thing where we've
exactly.
seen more and more bringing in some of that human support just because it's humans are not perfect, and this. So I think that's what's unique thing here we're seeing.
Exactly, and I think if you look at the pattern, right, like if you look at all the dinners which are hosted by in San Francisco, right, most of them are being hosted by AI companies, right, who are saying
Mhm.
that you should not be hiring humans and stuff like that, right? These are the companies who are hosting these in-person events, dinners, all those sort of things to make their, sales and prospects
Yeah.
connected, right? So I think this touch is not going anywhere, right? The personal relationship touch, it is going to be there. The golf thing will go on, and in fact, like, it will go even more because people will, like, get bored out of emails they are reading, all the hyper personalized ones, and
Yeah.
they will more focus on, offline things. So I think that is something which is for sure coming.
And kind of as we get closer to wrapping up here, I think what's really interesting is it's one thing we touched on, we talked about before was, and you touched on this a little bit, how some of these SDR, AI, or SaaS tools are becoming hyper complex and
Hmm.
almost creating art. I would say almost not an artificial barrier of entry, but making it very challenging to use these tools. How
Yeah,
with this, and you've touched on this, like with Claude Code, kind of,
yeah.
I've talked to some startup teams where every person on our team is supposed to be building their own dashboards in Claude Code or one of these other Vibe-ish tools. Where do you see kind of the SaaS player making a simple tool fit in versus kind of having some homegrown systems? Because obviously some of your
Mhm.
clients, I'm assuming, are pretty technical as well. Where are you finding them purchasing software versus possibly trying to do it themselves? Have you seen that
Mhm.
change over the last little bit with these vibe coding tools becoming popular, and
Yeah.
at the same time realizing that even though they're simple, you were still they're not as easy as it seems oftentimes to get production ready?
Yeah. So I think there are two type of markets, like two type of buyers again here, right? Like
Mm.
one who are like established sort of, uh, companies or sort of buyers, their ICP are fixed, or like they have very
Hmm.
specific things they want to go after. What I've seen is they need security, they need reliability, right? Which at this point in time, Cloud Code cannot really provide. For smaller teams, in fact, for small teams like us, right, who are like very scrappy, who are very like aggressive about Cloud Code, we want to do everything by ourselves. Like each one of our team members have their own Cloud Code, and they are like doing crazy things over there,
Hmm.
right? So I think for bigger segment, right, like people will rely on like external tools because those provide security, reliability, stability, all those things. But for smaller teams, I think like they will like, I think the micro SaaS businesses that are out there, right? Like,
Hmm.
for example, let's say an invoicing tool, simple invoicing tool for a company like BitScale, which is like 20-member team, right?
Hmm.
It we might not need to buy that product. Like it will hardly take us 15-20 minutes to build that in house. But
Yeah.
for the same product for a enterprise company, right, who is processing probably like 500 invoices every week, right, they would
Mhm.
eventually need multi country tax calculations
Mhm.
and all those things to it make it work, right? And to make it work, like it will take a lot of effort on the Cloud Code, right? So I think there will definitely be like, maybe in the future these things will change, but at this point in time, at least for the micro SaaS space, I think things are going to be difficult just because of the Cloud Code.
Yeah, and I think one thing I'm realizing more and more as I've tried to build my own things, build my own little go-to-market tools as well, is that the problem with building a tool you're not familiar with, in an industry you're not familiar with, you don't know what questions to ask. And I think that's
Exactly.
the, it's like hiring consultants. The consultant's not doing
Yeah.
anything; they're just asking the right questions and finding out what are some of the
Yeah.
common barriers. And I think we're seeing that more and more with. It's very easy to get 80%, but those edge cases,
Yeah.
that might be that edge of case, is where that skill set comes in. Like you said, like
Yeah.
even for the invoicing, it's like, well, there's different taxes. How do you do
Exactly.
the taxes? You're like, oh my goodness, I forgot about that. And it's all these small things that cause too much of a headache. It's the classic thing,
Yeah.
the paying a $200 subscription to save $10 on a SaaS tool. It's the same
Right.
thing where you think you build it yourself and you realize, you know what, I
Not
if I
worth it.
focus on my sales, it's better ROI than trying to build everything in house to save money, but limiting sales is kind of where the challenge comes. So yeah, it's an interesting market now. We're kind
Totally
of seeing a shift back and forth between those two.
totally
Um,
agreed with you.
And I think, as we wrap up here, I think one thing that'll be interesting to kind of ending off or kind of get your experience on is, where do you think the cold, I mean, this is just a more bold statement. Where do you think cold email is going? Because like everything else, it's cyclical. Everyone's like, email is the way, cold calling is the way, cold calling's dead, email's dead. Obviously, emails, because it's the lowest barrier to entry, we're still, I mean, I still think it's never going away. Where are you kind of
Mhm.
seeing that move towards? Is it on that hyper personalization? Is it now focusing on a smaller group of people? Is it
Mhm.
including images and blog posts? Kind of, how are you still seeing email work when oftentimes now, like you said, it's so easy to send it
Got
out, but I still think it's a good
got
mean of at least reaching out to people.
got it. I think how like we treat cold email at this point in time in BitScale is, even if like my thesis is like, even if we get zero replies from cold email, we will still be doing like cold emails all across our customers or like prospects. The reason is that I am more than a meeting channel or a conversion channel. I am looking cold email as a nurturing channel at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
The other channels for like the at this point in time, the converting channel for me might be LinkedIn or let's say in Google Ads, right?
Hmm.
But when I'm taking a mind share of the user or the prospect from their email box as well, right, that is adding some value to me, that might be
Hmm.
driving some signups for me as well, right, which I don't know about because the tracking is very difficult, right? You can't really
Hmm.
attribute if the person saw your email 5 days back and opened it today, your opened your app directly today. So
Yeah.
being a PLG company, right, like we will anyways will be sending out a lot of cold emails even if nobody replies. Although being in the GTM space, we do get a lot of replies from our
Hmm.
cold email. In fact, one of our biggest channel is cold email only. But maybe in 2 years, like it will not work. But I am very bullish that we will continue doing it. to just get the market share, a mind share of the person.
Mhm. And I think that is where I'm seeing it more and more as well. And that's kind of where I was thinking of this idea going, is that email being a nurturing channel,
Exactly.
because if they're reading it, and this is kind of where I'm seeing a lot of outbound being more less salesy and more, linked to articles, thought leadership, like, hey, here's some things you might be interested in, where you're not selling on the emails, but then when they see your ad or they see something else, you're top of mind. You have
Exactly.
relevance. And eventually, I think, I mean, back in the day, I mean, still, I think so. Back in the day, it used to be you need 7 touches to get a reply. I think that was the old saying we used to hear.
Right.
It might still be the same, it might be more, it might be less now, but I think that's the idea, is that it's a nurturing process. It's you
Mm.
need to build this pipeline, and then it's more and more useful just to get your emails read, like anything else.
Exactly.
But as we wrap up here, if people are interested in learning more,
Mhm.
checking out the product, where is the best place to get in contact with you and get learn more about the business?
Yeah, so people can just look at bitscale.ai, bitscale.ai, and they can directly book a call with us, or they can directly try out the platform. And like in the descriptions or something, like you can put in my LinkedIn profile as well. So if somebody wants to connect, I'm happy to have a chat.
Perfect. I'll put it in the description below. Thank you so much.